Hello, everyone. Welcome. See, we've got already about 30 people attending live right now, so welcome, everyone. My name is Dave Cool. I'm the Director of Artist and Industry Outreach at Bandzoogle, and with me today is Allison Sharp, our Education and Events Specialist. Hey, Allison.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good, good. So Bandzoogle is a 100% remote company, so we all work from home. So I'm up in Montreal, Canada, and Allison's in Southern California. Lucky her. So as we wait for people to log in and join the webinar, feel free to post in the chat. Let us know where you're from. Listening in from the van on the way to Surfa.
Awesome.
That's awesome, Megan. Also very exciting. I was at a little cocktail hour thing a few weeks ago for Folk Alliance, which is going to be in my hometown of Montreal in February, which is super exciting for me because there'll be a lot less travel. I can literally walk home if I wanted to. And last time there was, there was Folk Alliance in Montreal. It was my very first music conference back in 2004, I believe. So we're all very excited here in Montreal, and I'm excited for Allison, who's going to come visit in Montreal in February. So being from Southern California, I'm curious to know how she deals with Montreal winter in February. And
Probably not good at all.
Yeah. For all of you who are planning to come up to the conference, and I hope you are, if you've never experienced winter in Montreal or Canada, I would suggest dressing warmly. Is there audio? Just seeing two nice faces. There should be audio, Howard. Although thanks for the compliment. Sometimes I think just refreshing the screen can help with that.
I'm untyping this so they can see it, but if they click the red button at the top, it should refresh the page.
Oh, right. They can't hear us. So obviously if I tell them. Yeah. LA. Baltimore, hey Nancy. Oklahoma City, hey Stephanie. London, very cool. Phoenix, Brooklyn, nice. Kansas City, nice. Well, that's where Folk Alliance is. It's their home base. Went many years. Unfortunately, didn't make it out the last couple of years to Kansas City, but always had a great time when I went. This is great. Nice crowd. Hopefully all of you can see us and hear us. Sometimes with Webinar Jam, the software, the first time you log in, for whatever reason, there may be a technical issue. Often refreshing the webinar should help. If you're still having difficulty, please paste in the notes in the chat, and we'll do what we can. Hey, Pete from San Francisco. Awesome. So, yeah, there's over 30 people here working great now. Okay, great, John. Awesome. Glad to hear that. So today we're going to talk about selling your music online, and I'm going to run through a slide presentation. I'm going to break for a Q&A around the middle or 2/3 of the way through, and then run through some final slides, and then we're going to end the webinar with a Q&A session for as long as you guys have questions. I'm happy to stay on and answer them. Allison's going to be in the chat, so if you do have questions, just post them in the chat, and she'll flag them, and during the Q&A break, she'll ask me the questions, and I will do my absolute best to answer all the questions. And I should mention off the top, and we'll probably mention it a few times throughout, there will be a replay of this webinar. So within probably about 3 hours after the webinar ends, you'll get an automated email with a link to the replay, which you can watch anytime. So if you're watching it now and have to leave, or if and we'll repeat it later, but if you come in late and want to see the beginning, there's going to be no problem to watch the replay. So Waterloo, Ontario, nice. Hey, Jay. So I will get started with the presentation. Turn off my camera here. Can everyone see that first slide?
Yep, looks great.
Awesome. So how to properly release and sell your music online. If you do want a copy of the slides, so there's going to be a replay link that's sent out, but if you want a copy of the actual slide presentation, not a problem. Just send me an email at dcool@bandzoogle.com. I will get back to you as soon as I can with a copy of the PDFs, a copy of the PDF presentation. There's a lot of resources mentioned during the presentation, and I've linked the images and the text in the PDF so that if you do want to copy the slides, you'll be able to click through directly to the blog post that's mentioned or ebook or whatever. So make it a little easier. So for those of you who do not know Bandzoogle, very quickly, just want to let you guys know who we are and what we're all about. We're a website platform for musicians, so you can easily build your website. You don't have to know any coding or anything like that. You know, it's an all-in-one platform. So you get a free custom domain registration or transfer an existing domain if you have one already. We have hosting included. Of course, we have lots of features for musicians. Being a website platform specifically for musicians, I should mention we've been around now for 14 years. We power over 35,000 websites for artists around the world. Many, many, many artists in the folk world, which is the genre that I've spent most of my career working in. And we, you know, every year during the Junos up here in Canada, we usually have several folk nominees, and for the Folk Music Ontario Awards and Folk Music Canada Awards, we usually have a lot of Bandzoogle members represented, which is really awesome. So we have music players where you can stream music, offer free downloads, you can sell your music commission free, you can set the price, make it pay what you want, add lyrics, different file formats. We have an integration with SoundCloud. We do report to SoundScan for sales. So there's a lot of functionality there. And of course, most or many folk musicians are out there gigging and touring. So we have a calendar feature where you can actually sell tickets to shows commission free. You know, the events are shareable on social media. You can set recurring events, and we have an integration with bands in town if you're already using that platform for your live events. I'm going to be talking about mailing lists a few times throughout this presentation. We have a mailing list tool included, so you can send professional email newsletters. It's easy to import your list from somewhere else if you already have a mailing list, and you get, of course, detailed reports on how your emails are doing. Commission-free store, so like music, there's also a store feature where you can sell physical merch, so CDs, vinyl records, t-shirts, other types of merch. You can also sell digital files like sheet music, videos. You can offer discount codes to your fans, put things on sale. And for physical merch items, there's actually automatic inventory tracking, so you know when you're running out of t-shirts. Through our store features, our members have sold now over $35 million worth of music and merch and tickets, which is really awesome. We don't take any cut of that. So all of that is going directly to the artists themselves. In terms of design, there's over 100 beautiful mobile-ready themes. So they automatically adapt to the screen size they're being viewed on. They're responsive templates. So you can choose one, totally customize it with our point-and-click editor, change the colors, fonts, button colors, layout, things like that. It's totally customizable. And we have your data included in the dashboard. So you can connect to Google Analytics, but we also have our own data that you have access to, which gives you a few more things like plays, streams, sales, your mailing list data, things like that, all in one dashboard. We have integrations with a ton of services that many of you are probably already using: Bandcamp, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, SoundCloud. I mentioned Bands in Town before as well. Gig Salad is another one. So we have a lot of integrations with services that musicians are using. And probably our best feature, and it's the one that whenever I travel to conferences like Folk Alliance and meet Bandzoogle members, it's the first thing that they tell me is that we love your support team. They're awesome. And they are. And they're available 7 days a week by email and live chat. So you can find us at bandzoogle.com and on all the social media platforms. If you're watching this and or a Folk Alliance member, we do have a special offer for Folk Alliance members where you get a 3-month free trial instead of 30 days. And if you like the site that you build and want to keep it and upgrade to one of the paid plans, then you get 15% off any subscription. So that if you do receive the slides after and you want to check out that promo, if you click on Folk Alliance, it'll bring you to a link that automatically applies a promo code for you, so you don't have to manually enter it. So that's us. let's dive into what you're all here for, which is releasing and selling your music online. So obviously there's a lot of options out there to sell your music. You can sell it direct to your fans through your website, through stores like iTunes and Amazon and Google Play. Making your music available to your fans is somewhat the easy part of the equation, but it's really important to have a strategy for where your music goes up for sale and also when it goes up for sale. So, our hope with this webinar is to give you some tips on the platforms you should focus on to maximize your revenues and drive more sales, and also when you should be releasing your music on each type of platform. So we'll start with where to sell your music online. It's obviously countless options, but the first one, first and foremost, us being a website platform, but I'll explain a little bit why this is so important. And it's all about data. So Derek Webb, who's the founder of Noise Trade and an artist himself, and also a Bandzoogle member, has this great quote: "If you own the data, the money will always follow." And that's because access to data and the ownership of that data should really be a priority in your career right now, because it can help you choose which songs to invest money in releasing a video for, where you should tour, what types of merchandise to sell, which of your promotional campaigns are the most effective, things like that. Also gives you insight into your fans, so where they live, what content they're consuming. So in our data dashboard, for example, you see where the website visitors are from, what sites brought them there, what they searched for when they got to your site, where your mailing list members live. It's super important because you can use that data to help book shows in cities outside of your hometown. You can see which of your songs are being streamed, downloaded the most, and actually where in the world those streams and downloads are happening, which can also help you determine where you should be performing live or focusing more of your marketing promotional efforts. So the reasons to have a website, if you don't already, if you do, awesome. But if you don't, these are sort of the top 4 reasons why you should have a website for your music career. First and foremost, you own the address. So as long as you keep renewing your own .com, you're guaranteed to own that little sort of slice of the internet, and your fans will always be able to find you there. If anyone's on this webinar who's old enough to remember using MySpace for promotion, I certainly do. When MySpace kind of disappeared overnight, there was no copy my MySpace friends to Facebook. You had to really start all over again. And so your website allows you to have your own space on the internet where your fans can always find you, and then they can connect with you on whichever social media platform is popular when that you're active on at the time. Second reason is that you own the experience. So hopefully you're not putting a lot of ads and links on your own website, outside links. So no distractions, there's no design limits. You can brand it however you want to match your music, your style, your brand. In terms of money, you earn more money by selling directly through your website. So like I mentioned with Bandzoogle, it's commission free. We'll talk about a few other tools out there where they take a small percentage of sales, but you still get access to data, which is the 4th point, which is ownership of the data. So the data you're getting through your website, you own that data. From your mailing list, you own that data. So again, going back to the importance of having access to data in your career. So the upsides of selling through your own website, again, no commission on sales if you're using Bandzoogle, and very small percentage of sales through other platforms, which we'll get into. Collecting that fan data, reporting your sales to SoundScan, and while your fans are at your website, they can shop for other types of merch like t-shirts, mugs, tickets for shows, that kind of thing. The downsides to selling if you were to only sell your music on your website, which we wouldn't recommend, but let's say you were, there are some music fans out there that just will always prefer to shop through the retailer that they're most used to, whether it's iTunes, Amazon, Google, for example. So you should have, and I'll get into this a little bit later, but you should have all those options available. It's a question of when those options are available. Bandcamp, many of you are possibly using Bandcamp already. It's a great service. Selling through them means you can continue collecting that fan data and those email addresses. They do report sales to SoundScan, which is nice. You can sell merch through Bandcamp as well. And the cool thing about Bandcamp is there's also an emphasis on music discovery. So they have a blog and I believe possibly a podcast where they're looking for new music for fans who are visiting the site to discover, and they really put a huge emphasis on music discovery and letting the customers of Bandcamp know about other artists that they might also enjoy. Downsides of Bandcamp is they do take 15% of sales. I believe that goes down to 10% if you sell above $5,000, if I'm not mistaken. And similar to a website, some of your fans might always choose to just go through iTunes or Amazon. And just a quick note that we actually have integrated Bandcamp's music players right into Bandzoogle. So before that integration, our members would have to copy paste some HTML code and put it on their website. Now they just have to put their Bandcamp album link, and it automatically imports the album and it skins it to match whatever template and colors that they're using on their website. Even if they change their template or change the colors, the player will automatically change with it. So it's a way to make it look sort of more designed into your website. Again, we have our own music players to sell music, but some people do like Bandcamp, and so that's just a way to make it a little bit easier and nicer for them to continue using Bandcamp on their website. CD Baby, which I'm sure many of you know, they've been going to the Folk Alliance conference for many years, well-known company. And so through CD Baby selling your music, again, you get to collect that fan data, email addresses. They report sales to SoundScan, which is also nice. They do take, again, a percentage of sales. Your fans can't shop for any non-music merch. I believe you can sell CDs, obviously vinyl, but not things like T-shirts, concert tickets, things like that. So, and similar to the other direct-to-fan options, your fans might ignore them altogether. All of the other things, so iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, all those things. So it probably feels good to get those sales reports, whether you're distributor, CD Baby, TuneCore, DistroKid. When you see those sales reports coming in and you're getting sales from iTunes or Amazon, the issue with that is that you don't get access to email addresses from those fans. Those are customers of those stores, not of you. So selling through those retailers, again, is important and it's part of the overall strategy, but it should not be the main focus of your strategy. So the upsides of selling on stores like that is that, a lot of music fans already shop for music in those stores. They do report sales to SoundScan. However, they do take up to 30% of sales plus whatever your distributor might take. If they do take a percentage, you don't get access to the emails of the fans who are purchasing your music, and your fans obviously can't shop for other types of merch on those platforms. Now, in terms of choosing a digital distributor, I'm not going to get into it during this webinar. There's obviously a lot of options out there. Bandzoogle, we work with TuneCore very closely. Obviously, there's a lot of options out there. If you're a Bandzoogle member and you haven't used TuneCore before, you can also email me at dcool@bandzoogle.com. We do have a coupon code to get 30% off your first year at TuneCore. But if you're looking to if you're new to it and looking to try to decide which distributor is best for you, Ari Herstand has a great blog post called it's Digital Distribution Review Comparison, basically. So he goes really in depth into comparing all the different options for musicians. So that's linked in the slides as well. But if you do a Google search for Digital Distributor Review, Ari's post is going to pop up first. It's the go-to resource online to compare all the different services. So where else to sell your music? You can technically sell it through SoundCloud. They do have a large community of users and curators on the platform. If you're a pro SoundCloud user, which is a paid subscription, you can add a buy link to send fans to your preferred platform. The downside is you do have to be a pro user to add that buy link. And SoundCloud, if you pay attention to music industry news, they seem to have survived. I'm not sure what's next for the platform, but there are some questions around their future. So if you are using SoundCloud, awesome. Again, Bandzoogle has an integration with them. it's super slick and seamless to import your tracks from SoundCloud, and obviously a lot of people still use it, but I would suggest if you only have your music on SoundCloud to make sure it's also elsewhere, just in case. Pledge Music. Now, you wouldn't necessarily think of a crowdfunding platform as a place to just sell your music online, but there is an emphasis, with crowdfunding campaigns to part of it obviously is to pre-sell your album. So the nice thing about Pledge Music is it is very much musician driven as opposed to generic crowdfunding platforms. So you do collect that valuable fan data and email addresses. Nice thing about Pledge Music is they do report the sales to SoundScan. Obviously, your fans can shop for other merch at the same time because hopefully you're offering other types of rewards with vinyl and shirts and special items, things like that. And again, they have a huge database of music fans that have contributed to Pledge Music campaigns, and they'll send them related artists and suggested artists as well to try to drum up interest for some of their other members. They do take 15% of sales, which is a bit high in the crowdfunding space compared to others, but it is a lot more hands-on and it is music focused. So it's something to consider. And it is really only for pre-sales. Once your album comes out, then you'll have to look to some of these other platforms that we're talking about. Noise Trade, not necessarily a place to sell your music. And if you don't know Noise Trade, it's really, it's a free service where you can upload music, a track, a mix of different songs or older albums, and put it up on Noise Trade for free in exchange for email addresses and zip codes. They have a huge community of music fans, again, emphasizing music discovery. I believe their mailing list is 1.5 million music fans. And if someone is downloading your music on Noise Trade, they can leave you a tip or a donation when doing so, which is cool. But getting that data is really the most valuable part of that exchange. And also you can work with Noise Trade to get placement in their music discovery newsletters that go out to specific fans of specific genres of music. So they have all different types of campaigns that you can run with them. Downside is it's not counted as sales if you get tips or donations through the site. Obviously, there's no SoundScan reporting because there's no sale taking place, and they do take a small percentage of donations if they do come in. But overall, it's really less about making money and more about collecting data and finding new fans, hopefully. So in the next section, it's all about when to sell your music online. So this is gets more into the strategy behind selling your music. So we're going to look at an example release schedule, basically to illustrate which platforms and when you should be using those platforms throughout an album cycle. Phase one is really starting to engage your best fans immediately upon deciding that you're going to be releasing an album. So this is even before going into the studio, and you can do this through Bandzoogle, through your own website. You can obviously do this through Pledge Music. They really encourage you to get engaged with your fans as soon as possible in the crowdfunding campaign. If you've already recorded your album, you've missed out on this pivotal phase, more or less, which is engaging your fans right from the start. So as soon as you decide to work on a new album, start letting your fans know about it, bring them along on that journey of writing your songs, recording them, releasing the album, and it helps build anticipation and strengthens your relationship with your fans. And if you're doing a crowdfunding campaign, it does raise money in the process. So yeah, phase one resources, your own website, or Pledge Music, or there's Kickstarter and others that are out there. We have a couple of resources with crowdfunding, blog post called "Crowdfunding Your Album: 11 Do's and Don'ts," just things to watch out for if you decide to crowdfund your album. And this one's really interesting. One of our members, Enter the Haggis, successfully crowdfunded 3 albums. The first one they did on Bandzoogle directly through their website. The next one they did on Kickstarter, and then they used Pledge Music. And one of their members wrote a really detailed comparison of their experience doing crowdfunding on 3 different platforms. So definitely check that out if you're having a hard time deciding which is the best avenue for you. So phase 2, once you've engaged your fans through a crowdfunding campaign, or the start of the crowdfunding campaign, like right from writing your songs and going to the studio and things like that, you're going to want to start thinking about pre-orders about a month-ish before. There's no set time, but about a month before your album comes out is when to really start pushing pre-orders. If you haven't launched a crowdfunding campaign, then this is the phase that you should hop into right away, which is pre-orders. And again, you can use your own website, Bandzoogle. We have a pre-orders feature. Pledge Music probably might be a little bit too late for pre-orders, but depending on your on the size of your fan list and things like that, they could work with you through the pre-order phase, through a bit of the promotion. And Bandcamp has pre-orders as well. So yeah, if you crowdfund your album, all of those pledges or have included digital download of your album, and so you've already kind of taken care of phase 2 of your album release. But whether you've crowdfunded or not, still a good idea to put your album up for pre-sale on your website at the very least, for those fans that may not have participated in the crowdfunding campaign. And it gives you another announcement to make. I mean, it's all about building up hype and excitement around new music. So the official album pre-order is yet another announcement to make. And again, you can invite fans who didn't participate in crowdfunding to pre-order your album. And this is my personal opinion, and not everyone agrees, but this is where I feel that many artists make the biggest strategic mistake, which is during the pre-orders phase. And many of my friends, many of whom are folk artists, of course, focus all of their energy during the pre-order phase of their album launch on setting up an iTunes pre-order. And again, going back to some of the initial slides, with iTunes, you're making less money, and you're not getting that valuable data, the customer emails and where they're from, so that you can use that to book shows and run promotional campaigns. So you're still in phase 2, the pre-orders phase. You're still really engaging some of your biggest fans, who are more than likely willing to buy from your own website or Bandcamp or through Pledge Music. So you want to take advantage of that phase to still really be addressing those fans. Again, yeah, focusing on platforms where you can maximize your revenue, collect data, and depending on the platform you're using, whether it's Bandzoogle, Pledge Music, Bandcamp, CD Baby, those sales do count towards SoundScan if that's something that is important to you. And we've had many members chart, I believe, blues and reggae, some of the more niche genre charts on Billboard. We've had members who have charted thanks to sales directly through their website. Again, you can use Bandcamp. They do take a cut of sales, but you'll get that data and SoundScan reporting. So phase 3, is everyone still with me? Allison, are people still?
Yes, we're connected and all good.
Excellent. Okay. We're going to stop for a Q&A break very soon. So when to sell your music online, phase 3 is the actual album release. It's release day. It's a good time. It's an exciting day. This is when you can make your album officially available, of course, on your website, other services like Bandcamp. Use a service like TuneCore to make sure that your album goes out to all of the places. There's so many different digital retailers around the world. Obviously, the biggest ones are, Apple iTunes, Amazon, Google, but there are countless other retailers around the world. So by this time, you've hopefully maximized your revenues, collected emails from your biggest fans, and now you're officially releasing your album. And this is the time to get it up on all those other online retailers and streaming services like Spotify and Apple Music. Now, streaming could obviously be a whole webinar on its own. I'm not going to dive too deep into it during the slide presentation, although if you guys have questions about streaming, I'll do my best to answer them during the Q&A breaks. But we're getting to the point, obviously, where streaming is starting to become the dominant format where fans listen to and consume music. So many of your fans might only listen to your music on services like Spotify or Apple Music. But if you've engaged and monetized your super fans during those first 2 phases of your album release, you should definitely include streaming once your album is out. And I often tell artists, streaming is often less about monetization and more about music discovery. And a showcase artist named AHI, singer-songwriter from Toronto, a friend of mine who he showcased at Folk Alliance last year, I believe. And one of his songs was added to a popular Spotify playlist last year, and it changed his career. He got over 1 million streams of that song. He's been signed to a label management company in Nashville. He's now touring with big name artists. He's getting his other music onto Spotify playlists, and that wouldn't have happened without Spotify. And so even though you can make those fractions of a penny on each stream, it is a platform, specifically Spotify, it is a platform that really looks for new music and to expose their customers to new artists and new songs. So I'll say my piece on streaming and move on, but if you guys have any questions, be happy to answer. YouTube, I just read an article this week about streaming services in general, and that more music is streamed on YouTube than every other streaming service combined. So, which is pretty incredible. So once your album is released, obviously if you have an official video or two, you should upload those, but you should upload your whole album on your official channel, even if it's just the album artwork or lyric videos, something simple. It's just important to have it on your official channel because it's still where a lot of music fans are going to go to try to listen to an artist they heard about. So it's better that it's on your official channel and it's, if your fans upload your music, it's most likely because they're really excited. But I do know artists that have had songs get hundreds of thousands of streams on YouTube that weren't released on their official channel. They were uploaded by a fan, which is, it's nice, but you have more control over it when it's on your own channel. So I'd be proactive with that. And of course, don't forget your website when you officially release the album. So on your music page, offer that direct-to-fan purchase option front and center. And then, of course, include links below that where your fans can buy your music from other retailers or stream on streaming services. And I'll very quickly, we'll just take a look at Derek Webb, who I mentioned earlier. He's the founder of Noise Trade. And when he launched his new album last September, he launched it initially through his website, which he has on Bandzoogle. And so he had a landing page with the video of his first single and sent out an email blast to his fan database, driving them all to his website first to purchase his new album. If you are selling music on your website or interested in trying it, just a few tips when creating a page to sell music. Just make sure that it's not too cluttered, that it's easy to scan, that you do have a lot of music to listen to, but there's also a lot of options for your fans. So streaming, maybe free download in exchange for an email address. Your website is really where, if there's anywhere on the internet your fans should be able to find your full discography, it's on your own website. So you don't have to stream the entire catalog, but you should definitely have some full tracks, at the very least preview clips for people landing on that page. Also a good idea to include some free music and include lyrics. It's amazing because of how things have gone in the music industry and everything's gone digital. CDs had lyric booklets often, and of course vinyl. With MP3s and streaming, lyrics have taken a bit of a back seat. And one of the most popular searches on Google has the word lyrics in it because music fans are trying to figure out the lyrics for songs. So On your website, you can have a separate page for lyrics with all your songs listed. In Bandzoogle's music players, you can add the lyrics right into each track, and they can click on that. And of course, include some physical options like CDs, vinyl as well. Important to think about the layout, so adding your most recent album at the top of the page. And you can use some of Bandzoogle's design tools if you're using Bandzoogle, or just keep in mind columns and sections to lay it out in a way that's organized and easy to scan. Another good idea is to add context to your albums. A great layout I've seen on some websites is for each album, the albums will be listed, let's say, on the left side of the page, like 2/3 of the page, and then on the right sidebar, they have some of the top reviews for that album. So it just adds a little context to each album. And of course, include those links to iTunes, Amazon, Spotify, etc. So your fans, if they're not interested in buying direct, or if they prefer to just stream, you can send them directly to Spotify from there. We have a blog post that has that information and a lot more about creating a page on your website to sell music. So first Q&A break, and my first question, I actually have a question for Allison, which is, can you hear the chainsaw in the background?
No, it's been pretty good. It's been pretty clear, so we can hear you. Excellent.
For everyone tuning in, Bandzoogle's a remote company, like I mentioned at the top. Everyone works from home, which is awesome. Today, the city of Montreal, starting at 7 a.m. Eastern time, has decided to cut down a massive tree in the yard right behind me. So there's been a chainsaw going off all day. So I apologize if any of you can hear that in the background. I think it's, for the most part, not so bad, but I do apologize if you can't hear it. I definitely can, because it's right behind my head, but hopefully not too much of it is getting into the mic. So anyways, do we have any questions so far?
We have 5 questions so far. So I'll just go ahead and start from the first one. Amelia asks, she says, never heard about Bandcamp. Is that mostly for American bands? Is there also bands playing traditional music or world music there? And what's the general style of Bandcamp?
Bandcamp is global, for sure. It definitely tends to be more popular in certain genres. How much traditional music is on Bandcamp, I'm not totally sure, but my impression is certainly not it's not a huge percentage. You'll get a lot of indie rock and experimental music on Bandcamp, but again, they do have all genres, and it is a global music company, so they have artists from literally every country in the world.
Yes, indeed. The next question is from Bernd and asks, how do you guarantee a commercial success for artists?
You can't.
Yes.
Sorry, that's the dead honest truth answer. You cannot. All of these platforms, Bandzoogle included, can offer tools that musicians can use to help them in their career. But if any platform out there says they can guarantee success for you, definitely question whether that platform is honest. And there are some out there, services that have come and gone over the years, that promise everything to artists, success and fame and all that fun stuff, but there is no guaranteeing that. It's really, there's a bunch of tools out there, and if you use them in a strategic way, it can help you along. But at the end of the day, there's so many intangibles, like the music itself and the messaging of your promotion. That could be a whole other webinar of how to really, successfully market and promote, obviously. But no platform should ever be guaranteeing success, because it's impossible to guarantee that.
Mm-hmm. John Z asked, when you were doing the slides about the album releases, asked, do you have an action list? So for example, step 1, if you want to release February 2020, year 1, write songs 9 months out, record 6 months out, et cetera, et cetera. Like, do you have a list of kind of a timeline for doing a release?
Good question. I'm not sure. Hang on, I'm literally going on our blog right now.
Probably Justin's blog's Justin's blogs about his release might be helpful.
Yeah, because this webinar is actually based on a blog post, which I'm going to try to find right now. And I may have put a timeline in that blog post. If not, that's a great idea. We've often, for other subjects similar to this, had a downloadable like spreadsheet where you could kind of fill in the blank, but I'm not sure if we did. I'm on the blog post right now. This won't take very long. No, so there's no real specific dates out there. It might exist. And John, if you want to email me, maybe give me a day or two to research, but I'm sure something like that is probably out there. And I know a lot of Bandzoogle's partners are music marketing experts, and they have a lot of resources, so I could try to figure out if someone has a good timeline out there that you could use.
The next question is, Amelia, what's your best tips on getting your music onto playlists on Spotify, or do you have some links to some great information on that?
I don't personally have any tips for that. So to answer your question, unfortunately, I can't answer that. That will hopefully be a subject for a future webinar. It's something that we're working on. We're working on a whole blog series about streaming, which will start at the end. It's in June. Sorry. So definitely email me at dcool@bandzoogle.com. And I have a bunch of bookmarked resources for how to get on playlists on Spotify and how to approach playlisters and things like that. So I will gladly send you those links.
John Z asks, can you talk about the relevance of videos? Like you just mentioned lyrics. Are lyric videos important, or official videos?
Yeah, video is super important. I think it's becoming more and more important. If you just look at platforms like Facebook and Instagram, for example, they've pivoted and really are emphasizing video as opposed to just still images or just links. Even Twitter is trying desperately to figure out a video strategy. So videos just tend to be more engaging because you're engaging someone's eyes and ears. And so, yeah, video is definitely super important. And, how important are lyric videos? I don't know if they're that important, but, for me, it's just about, if you're not going to have an official video, obviously for all your songs, that would be expensive. But on your official YouTube channel, you'd be surprised how many people use YouTube just like a streaming service. And so they're not even watching the video. They just have it playing in the background. So that's where it can come in handy, is if they want to listen to your full album on YouTube.
We do have several questions that came through since the Q&A section started. So do you want to answer them now or wait till the end, Dave?
Let's wait till the end. There's not much left, guys. So I will. I'll run through the rest of the slides and then come back on camera with Allison, and I'll stick around for as long as you guys have questions.
Awesome.
So I will keep going here. So this last section is really about how to sell more music online, or tips to hopefully help you sell more music online. And these are things that we've noticed through our experience, my own experience working with artists and talking to managers and labels and seeing what they're doing. So, the temptation obviously is to do a lot of social media marketing because everyone's on social media, which makes total sense. Social media is super important. Again, could be a whole other webinar, and it's a workshop I've given many times about social media marketing, but it's not the most effective tool when it comes to selling. Like, people are on social media to hang out, look at funny memes, chat with their friends, that kind of thing. They're not necessarily there to shop. Some are, but most aren't. So the most important tool that you have at your disposal to drive revenue and to drive sales is your email list. And if you don't have a mailing list yet, if there's one takeaway from this webinar, it's to please start collecting emails, start collecting that data. It's going to be very important for the long term. of your career. So number one reason to have a mailing list is that you own it. Similar to your website and your web address, you own your mailing list. You own that email database. So you can download that database and take it with you no matter what service you're using. So if you're using MailChimp right now, for example, and you want to start using Bandzoogle, you just download your database from MailChimp, upload it to Bandzoogle's mailing list feature. And if you should ever leave Bandzoogle for whatever reason, you own that database. You download it and you take it with you. That's incredibly powerful because you cannot do that with social media platforms, obviously. If a fan has given you their email address, they want to hear from you. That's a really important thing to keep in mind. Like some artists are hesitant to I don't want to spam people, but if someone's given you their email address, they want to know what's going on in your career. So definitely regularly send out newsletters. This study was from a couple of years ago, and I've been looking for a new study to see if this has shifted a little bit, but even still, I'm still mentioning it because even just a couple of years ago, they found that email marketing was 40 times as effective as Facebook and Twitter combined. This is just speaking specifically about driving revenue. So, which makes sense when you think about it, because social media is very noisy. There's a lot of distractions, a lot of different content being shared. But if you send a dedicated email to your fans who want to hear from you with a very clear call to action button saying, and explaining that my new album is available for pre-order, or I'm starting a crowdfunding campaign, here's all the fun things you can get as rewards, click here to contribute or click here to pre-order, you're going to have a lot more success in terms of driving revenue than on social media. And it's also the best way to stay in touch with your fans. There's a artist manager named Emily White, based in New York, who has this great quote, an email list is an artist's retirement plan. And what she means by that is that, again, you own that database of fans, that database of emails, so you can keep in touch with them for as long as you're active as an artist, which is incredibly powerful. So again, if you don't have a mailing list yet, start building it now. And a few ways to build that mailing list if you don't have one yet, or if you have one and you're looking for different ways to get more emails, make sure that on your website, it's the main sort of call to action. So a call to action is someone lands on your website. What do you want them to do? They probably don't have a lot of time. They're just checking out your website. What do you want them to do? What do you want them to click? So having a mailing list sign up, offering something in exchange for that email, like a free download, stream, exclusive content, things like that. On social media, once in a while, not constantly, but once in a while, do mention to your followers on social media that you do have an email list and that you offer exclusive content or exclusive news, or however you want to frame it, to try to get people onto your mailing list. Of course, if you're performing live, years and years ago when I was an intern for Ember Swift, who's a folk singer-songwriter from Canada, I used to get her piles of sign-up lists on paper from her tours, and I used to do the data entry for those. So that's a pretty old school way of doing it. You can do it through your iPad. You can have a laptop open with a spreadsheet. Just make sure that at your merge table, you're collecting emails. Obviously, if you're selling direct through your website, you're able to collect emails that way. If you're running a contest, you can require that people sign up to your mailing list, or let your fans know that you're running a contest through your mailing list so that some of them hopefully sign up to be part of that contest. Work with other artists. Never, ever share email lists. That's not the point of number 8 here on the list. It's more just if you have artists in your home scene who are similar, or even just similar artists that you enjoy. It's always nice to see artists talking about each other. We all get very focused on our own careers, which is totally normal. But it's always fun when you see artists working together and letting each other's fan base know, like, hey, you should really check out this artist. We think you'd really enjoy them. And on your emails, make sure that you encourage fans to forward to their friends and have some sharing options. You never know, even if it's 1 or 2 people sharing each email, that can add up over time to help build your database. We do have a resource called The Complete Guide to Email Marketing for Musicians, which goes into a lot more depth of strategy when it comes to email marketing. Mailing list resources. So to collect emails, obviously you can do it directly through your website. We have an automated system that sends a free download or a free album download for an email address. Noise Trade, like I mentioned earlier, where you can upload music in exchange for email addresses. And of course, there's other mailing list services out there like FanBridge, MailChimp, things like that. Another strategy to sell more music is trying the pay what you want model. So this is where you don't set the price on the sales. You let fans decide how much they want to pay. And now you can set a minimum on Bandzoogle's players. You can set a minimum of, let's say it's minimum of 50 cents on one track, but they can also pay you more. You can also make it available for free as the minimum. And some people might take it for free, but some people are going to pay you a lot more. So Bandcamp released some interesting data about this a few years ago, where they found that the artists that were using the pay what you want model were actually making more money than had they set it at 99 cents a track, because the people who are going to be buying from Bandcamp or through your website are really kind of your biggest fans, and some of them want to support you. So it's a way to let them do that. There's a Bandzoogle member who plays amazing instrumental music, Sam Ray, and I listen to it all the time while I'm working, and she had a pay what you want model for her pricing on her website, and I think I paid like $10 for a song or something like that, because I love the song and I kept playing it, and so I left her $10 for that one track, and that's stuff that music fans do all the time. So it's something to try out if you haven't already. The pay what you want model can be used on, of course, Bandzoogle, like I mentioned. Bandcamp also has that as well, like I mentioned. So you can experiment with using that as a strategy. Offering physical and digital bundles. So if you release a CD or vinyl version of your album, you can bundle it with the digital version. You can also bundle older albums with a digital copy of your new album as a way to try to sell some of the back catalog a little bit, so to speak. And digital bundle, you can do digital bundles again. There's a lot of Bandzoogle Bandcamp here. So we offer a lot of complimentary services, whereas Bandzoogle is really more the full website, mailing list, blog, calendar, all those things. But Bandcamp does offer a lot of these sales tools as well. We have a guide, of course, on selling your merch online. So you can check that out as well for a lot more details on ideas for merch and some of the strategy behind selling your merch. Back catalog deals, another way to help drive some more music sales. So if you do have quite a few albums in your back catalog, you can offer fans a discount on the older albums if they purchase a new album, or offer a really great deal on the full catalog if it's purchased altogether. So you make a new fan at a show, they go to your website, or let's say they sign up to your mailing list. You send out an email to your mailing list, to all your new mailing list subscribers, saying use this discount code to get 50% off if you buy the full catalog, that kind of thing. So if you want to, and especially, and I do find, and some of you might disagree or agree, but I do find folk is still one of those genres where CDs are still a legitimate thing. Like that's a legitimate piece of merch, because of the fact that many folk artists are touring, and it is a relatively inexpensive merch item to have at shows, and it's something tangible that you can sign for your fans, and they might still stream your music online, but it's something that that can still be useful as a merch item. Sorry, that was a bit of an aside, but just reminded me of CDs. So sale pricing and discount codes, another strategy. Don't offer discounts on your new album right away. That's the album, you want people to be excited and pay full price if they're buying it. But you can celebrate its release by offering a sale on your older albums again, or other merch items. And like I mentioned before, you can send a welcome email to new mailing subscribers with a discount code for your store to shop for different items. Discount codes, sale pricing, all that stuff is built into Bandzoogle's players, of course. So just to recap, I know this was a ton of information. Again, if you want to copy the slides, you can email me at dcool, @bandzoogle.com. I'll post it in the chat as well. But just to recap, the whole, the main points of this webinar are to really think about engaging your fans right from the start of the creation of your album, not after your album's recorded. Although it's a good, start there if you haven't prior to that. But before going into studio is when you want to start thinking about talking about the new album and engaging your fans. Focus on online properties that you own, like your own website and your mailing list, so that you're maximizing not only revenues, but also collecting data. And then using a mix of all the services and different platforms that we mentioned, so that every type of fan, from your biggest super fans to casual fans, can pay you for your music and also stream your music and hopefully, come to one of your shows after that. So if you're already a Bandzoogle member, or if you're curious about Bandzoogle and using all the tools that were mentioned, we do have a blog post called How to Promote and Sell Your Music Online only using Bandzoogle. So it goes through all the phases of an album release, similar to what we talked about, with all of the built-in tools that are already included in Bandzoogle. So for those of you interested, that's a blog post to check out. Obviously, we talked a lot about revenue, maximizing revenue when it comes to selling music. We have a free ebook available through our blog on the sidebar. It's called 23 Ways Musicians Can Make Money. And it's all about making money, all about different revenue streams that you can access as a musician. So that's totally free to download, so you can check that out. Again, if you want to check out Bandzoogle, promo code FocalLines gets you an extended free trial and 15% off any subscription. So I believe time for the Q&A. And also here's my email address for anyone who does want to copy. I've been seeing emails coming in on my phone throughout the webinar, so people are asking for them, which is awesome. I will get back to you guys as soon as I can. So I will stop the presentation and turn my camera back on. Hello, everyone.
Awesome. Okay, so John Z asks, are there platforms that perform better for Americana artists?
I don't know for sure. I can't even pretend to know the answer to that question, unfortunately. I know Noise Trade does a lot in the folk roots Americana in terms of music discovery. I think a lot, my impression, and you have to ask them directly, but my impression is that they do have a large database of fans who are interested in that genre of music. But again, when it comes to other platforms, Bandcamp has all genres. Bandzoogle, we have everything from classical orchestras to punk rock and heavy metal and folk and hip hop and beat producers. It's all over the map. It's because we're just powering your official website. So it's not a music discovery platform, but Bandcamp, again, all over the map. So for Americana, I might check out Noise Trade just because their founder, Derek Webb, is a singer-songwriter. And so I think there are a lot of singer-songwriters who do use that platform.
Sarah asks, do you have suggestions for online sales for a niche market such as devotional mantras and chants?
Do I have tips for, sorry, can you repeat that?
Any suggestions for online sales for a niche market?
Yeah, a lot of what was talked about, obviously selling directly through your website. So hopefully you do have some people following your music already. If you don't, you should still have it there for when people do discover your music. But even, like I mentioned, Bandcamp, they have the craziest subgenres of subgenres of subgenres on that platform. So people seeking out any genre in the world will likely land on Bandcamp to shop and try to check out artists. So if you want to copy the slides, just as a reminder, the information is pretty generalized, so that it could apply to any niche. Obviously, there's going to be nuances for each niche, and unfortunately, I'm not an expert in every genre of music for sales strategies. But the bottom line is to keep in mind some of the platforms that were mentioned.
Joey asks, are there any strategy ideas for collecting email?
Oh, so I kind of went over that in the just before the last slides. There was a few slides of 9 ways to collect emails. So it's really making sure you're collecting emails on every platform, social media, your website on the homepage, offering something exclusive, something free, for your mailing list subscribers. Getting signups at shows, obviously. You can run contests through your mailing list and encourage people to sign up. So again, if you want to copy the slides, there's also a link in the slides to a blog post that has a lot more information about email marketing and ways to collect more ideas to collect emails. So you can definitely check that out. I'll post my email address right now, actually, in the
chat. Gabby asks, how helpful do you think social media, Facebook and Instagram, is to support sales?
It's getting better, I would say, especially Facebook. There's a lot more targeting tools available. So we haven't announced it officially yet, but we've just integrated the Facebook pixel into our store feature. So you can use that tracking pixel to track whether your ads on Facebook are actually driving people and they're converting to sales on your website. So it's a way to measure that. And we do have a blog post about running Facebook advertising campaigns and Instagram advertising campaigns for musicians specifically. And if you email me, I can send you links to those. But I think they're getting better, but social media is still by its very nature social. People are, for the most part, just liking and sharing funny things or arguing over politics or whatever the case may be. But in terms of shopping, I don't think it's quite there yet, but it's definitely getting better. And again, it's not to minimize the importance of social media, because that is obviously an important aspect of your overall marketing mix of getting the word out that you have an album available or new music available or touring or whatever. And especially in terms of fan engagement and finding new fans, social media is incredible for a lot of things, but when you're talking strictly revenue, there are other tools that still seem to be more effective.
Rosalind asks, how necessary is it to release fully produced and professional sounding material? For example, is there a market these days for demos and live recordings?
I'm sure there is. Demos, I'm not sure. Live music for sure. And live music is a good thing. What I've seen some artists do is, as an incentive to sign up to a mailing list, they'll offer an exclusive live album that's not available anywhere. So you can only get that by signing up to a mailing list. Going back to offering an incentive, something exclusive. Demos, I'm kind of on the fence with that. It kind of depends what your strategy is with that, because what's the saying? You only get, one first impression, or I'm messing it up, but someone who clicks on that and listens to you, that's going to be their impression of you going forward. So demos, I'm a little hesitant about, although in certain genres, there's a service called AudioMac, which I'd never heard of before. It's for hip hop producers and beat producers and DJs, and they're releasing new tracks every day and just putting it out there for free. And it's not necessarily the most polished stuff, but they're prolific. And so they're just putting a lot of music out there and a lot of tracks out there. So so in those genres, it does seem to work. In genres where, like folk, putting out a demo as an official release, and this is my personal opinion. So this is not Bandzoogle's official advice. This is just me based on my experience. I would probably lean more towards a live take YouTube video over just a sound recording demo in that case, because then people can see you. It's a little bit more raw in its vibe because it's a YouTube video, live video, rather than releasing demo tracks. But I could be totally wrong. I apologize. It's up to you, and if you feel strongly in the quality, then you can of course release it. But it goes back to that first impression, and if you want that to be the first impression that people hear.
The next question is from Howard. Do you have tools for labels? We are a startup label with 2 artists, each with their own website plus a label site. To integrate everything would be nice.
Yeah, we do. Email me. So a few things. If you're running a label, we do have them for anyone, really. I mean, if you have several projects, we do have a multiple site discount. So you get discounts on the multiple sites after the first. And we do have multi-account logins. So you can manage all 3 sites or 5 sites or 10 sites through one login. So you can actually use your, let's say, for example, use your label site as the primary site. You log in through that, those login details. The support team can connect, I think, if this is correct, Allison, they can connect the other accounts to that primary account so that when you log in, there's a drop down and you see all the websites that you're managing, and you just click there and you don't have to re-log in. You're managing and updating all the sites from one dashboard, essentially. So it makes it a little easier. And I can send you examples of labels who are using Bandzoogle. We have a ton. So yeah, just send me a note, and I can send you more detailed information.
Amelia asks, what is your advice on getting through via newsletters? People are so drowned in information and emails. I tend to erase everything I get before I read it, or maybe that's just me.
It's not just you, for sure. And that's a big struggle for anyone sending out, I mean, sending out Bandzoogle's newsletters. I mean, I have to spend time every week making sure the subject line is interesting and engaging, and hopefully people, when they see it in their inbox with 50 other emails, that they're going to click on it. We do a lot of A/B testing, which is something you can do through a service like MailChimp. So it sends out 2 to 3 or more subject lines to a fraction of your list. Whichever has the best open rates, it'll send the rest to the email with that subject line, things like that. So again, the resource, there's a couple of resources in the slides about email marketing that goes a little bit more into that, but it's really, I would say that it's really about not overdoing it. So not sending emails every day, maybe even not every week, but maybe once a month, once every couple of months. Again, people have given you their email address, so they want to hear from you. So, if you just update them regularly and have a subject line that's, interesting, engaging, depending on, and again, it all depends on your genre and kind of your brand and what your voice is as an artist. Like, it could be a serious subject line, it could be a really goofy one, it could have emojis. You can try out different things, and again, going back to data, you can look at your data and see that, oh, this style subject line got way more opens than a different one. So there's a lot of trial and error with that. And even for a company like Bandzoogle, we're always trying new things and testing to try to, break through the clutter.
I'm not sure what this was in regards to, what part of the slides, but John Z asks, so is Facebook Live enough? Not sure about enough for what, but.
Not sure. If you could expand on that, John, that'd be great, or email me. Yeah, Facebook Live is becoming a more popular way of using Facebook and engaging with fans, because you get that little notification that so-and-so is live, which is kind of cool. And it can be useful for, of course, engaging your fans if you're in the studio or the green room or even on stage during a show or giving a house concert, that kind of thing. So for videos, yeah. So for videos, Facebook, their strategy is twofold. There's Facebook native videos. So instead of posting a link to YouTube, they really encourage, and through their algorithms, they prefer that your video is uploaded directly to Facebook, and then it gets stored on your videos page on your fan page. And then there's Facebook Live, and I believe those videos do get archived, Allison.
Yeah, they get saved.
They get saved, yeah. So those are the 2 ways that Facebook is trying to double down on video, and also they're launching their own TV shows and trying to get people to watch TV on Facebook. So, but that's not relevant for this discussion.
This is just a comment, but I thought it was a very good comment just for everybody on the webinar. But Gabby said, in relation to having lyric videos, it's good to insert the lyrics onto the comments and description of your video, as YouTube is Google product and it works well with SEO. So I think that's a really good point for lyric videos.
100%. That's a great comment.
The next question is from Joey. What's your advice on selling physical merch internationally?
I guess you mean in terms of packaging and shipping? Because if you have fans around the world, which many of you no doubt do, and they do want to buy a t-shirt, it can be a little expensive to ship and sell. And sometimes the shipping expense can scare off people. It certainly has with me when I'm trying to buy merch overseas. I would say that I don't know for sure, and again, I apologize. I'm going to do my best to give the right information here, but I'm pretty sure there are services out there where they would have warehouses in different countries. Let's say Amazon. If you're selling your CD on Amazon, they could ship through one of their partner stores as a generic example. There's also a vinyl service. If you're doing vinyl, there's a company called Crates, Qrates, and it's kind of a crowdfunding for vinyl, so you can raise money from your fans, and when you raise enough, the vinyl is produced, and they have warehouses a little bit throughout. They can ship directly to your fans. So there's services like that. Do they exist for all of the types of merch? I'm not sure. And there's also the pay-as-you-go model of like Cafe Press and Zazzle and things like that, where your fans are buying. You're not actually manufacturing the merch, but you're getting a print, something printed on various merch items, and they often have warehouses where it's easier to ship. So I have no idea if that answers your question. If I didn't, just send me an email and I'll do my best to go into more detail.
Amelia asks, what's really smart and cool merch? Amongst my colleges, I haven't really seen so much stuff I would like to do. So maybe some merch ideas.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the sky's the limit. And it's up to you. I mean, we have a heavy metal band on Bandzoogle that sells voodoo dolls with like pins and with their band name on it. You know what I mean? Like, and it really ties into their whole brand and their style of music. Again, I think a few of those blog posts go in depth on physical merch items and even digital merch items and different types of things you can do. But it's really, one thing you can do is ask your fans through social media, in an upcoming newsletter. It's like, let them know you're thinking of making some merch. What does everyone want? Do they want mugs, t-shirts, or do they want voodoo dolls and jewelry, or, whatever the case may be. So it's really, there's no real limit to it. I would say that make sure when you're thinking of producing merch that you get a real handle on how much it's going to cost to produce and how much it's going to cost to ship before you commit to said merch item.
Gabby asks, I have an official video for each song of the new album. Do you think it's also good to upload the song only, like just the song? Or would that be repetitive?
No, that would be repetitive. If you have official videos, that's awesome. Make sure they're on your official channel and you're good to go.
John Z asks, can we get a private consultation regarding our Bandzoogle website?
In terms of if you want feedback on your website or if you want a website review, that's something we offer to members free of charge. Just log into your account, click on the help tab, and either live chat with the support team or send an email ticket and ask the support team if they can give you some tips on your website, and they'll do a thorough review and let you know some of the things you could be doing better, some things you're doing well, that kind of thing. So anytime, 7 days a week. It takes a little bit of time for those reviews to happen because they do want to take the proper time to go through your whole website, but just ask them and they'll assign it to someone or do it themselves and get back to you with a review of your site.
Also, what frequency do you think is best to promote my material on social media and don't bug the audience? So how often to promote?
Depends on your audience. Yeah, you guys are asking a lot of really great questions, and unfortunately I could sit here and tell you it's X or it's Y, but there's no definitive answer. I mean, there's some artists out there that live on Twitter, like Amanda Palmer, who's a famous example of an independent artist who really engages her fan base. And I really enjoyed what she was doing with her fans and directly engaging them and crowdfunding campaigns and things like that. And I started following her on Twitter because I enjoy Twitter as a social media platform, so I spend most of my time there. And I followed her, and after 2 days, I unfollowed her because she was my entire timeline. And for me, as someone who's not kind of a casual fan, just curious what she's up to in her career, it was way too much for me, and it flooded my timeline. However, for her fans, people that really are engaging with her and answering her and asking her questions, they loved it. Obviously, she has millions of followers. So it depends on your fans, and it depends on how much you want to be putting yourself out there. Just making sure that you're not disappearing for a month or 2 months at a time from platforms. Just make sure you're posting regularly. a rule of thumb, if there were one, is just Twitter probably more often than Facebook. Instagram is probably equal, somewhere in between, maybe, Allison. You can overdo it on Instagram too.
Yeah.
It's, again, it depends on your fans and depends how much content if you're a super creative, prolific person in terms of like coming up with tweets or images to post on Instagram, and you'll see, again, going back to data, you'll see if your engagement goes way down and you've been posting a lot, tone it down a bit and see if the engagement goes up. Or if you're not really posting a lot and engagement's start posting more and seeing if engagement goes up. And you'll find that happy medium that your particular fan base enjoys. So,
John Z asks, any thoughts on licensing and licensing services?
Lots, but probably a topic for another day. But John, send me an email. I'll send you a few articles that can be helpful for music licensing, and also looks at some of the services out there who offer music licensing, and so that should help, because that's a big discussion. There's a lot of services out there, some better than others, and there's a lot of different strategies when it comes to getting a music license. But I have bookmarked a bunch of resources that I can send your way.
Sarah asks, is Hootsuite still a good way to manage social media, just with trying to balance time, focusing on sales, being at the instrument, and writing new material?
Yeah, Hootsuite's definitely a good one. We use TweetDeck at Bandzoogle in combination with Buffer, which is another good tool. Whatever works for you. There's a lot of different tools out there. We tried Hootsuite. I personally didn't like it as much as TweetDeck and Buffer, but other people swear by Hootsuite, so it's really your own personal preference. But it's definitely still one of the biggest social media management tools for sure.
Gabby asks, thinking about how social channels can help with booking, as most venues look at the hits of likes and number of fans. I'm not sure what the question is, but I guess just thinking about how social channels can help with booking.
Oh yeah, so bookers and venue bookers will often look at your social numbers, and it's still happening now. I find it less so, but especially 4 or 5 years ago, people were buying fake followers on Twitter and fake followers on Facebook to try to drive up the numbers, because they felt that then the industry might see them as a bigger artist than they are. That's one of the reasons. But a few things on that. Never, ever, ever buy fake followers to try to drive up your numbers. It'll backfire in a few ways. I'm losing my voice. One, people in the industry kind of see through that now, especially bookers, because they won't only look at your numbers, they'll actually scroll down your posts and see what the engagement is. So if you have 1 million Facebook fans and then your last 2 or 3 posts on Facebook have like 3 likes, there's something wrong. Pardon me, on Twitter as well. And so, or you'll have like 100,000 followers on Twitter and 500 Facebook likes. Like there's something off. Other thing is, especially on Facebook, as you know, your posts aren't reaching all of your page fans, and you can boost your posts, like the important ones, like launching a crowdfunding campaign or live shows coming up, your album's available for sale, that kind of thing. You can boost those posts, but if you've artificially inflated your likes through fake accounts, you're then paying for the privilege to show that content to fake accounts, and it's going to cost you money in the long run. So getting back to the original question note, bookers do look at social stats, but it's one factor in many, and one of the most effective ways to prove a booker that you have a fan base in the city you want to play is your mailing list. Tell them how many people are on your mailing list in their city. That, because they know, because venues send out emails to drive ticket sales and get people out to shows. If you can tell them you have 250 people in that city and the venue fits maybe 100, 150, they know that, okay, certain percentages of their fans are definitely going to come out. We have other acts on the bill, should be able to do it that way. And I've seen managers, I witnessed a manager at a conference here in Montreal who was managing a band that was offering their music for free in exchange for email addresses. and they wanted to tour in Australia. And we were at a roundtable discussion with an Australian promoter, and the manager immediately went to him. He's like, "I need to show you something," and he showed him the dashboard of the band's website and said, "Look at the emails from Brisbane. There's 3,500 fans of this band in Brisbane," and they're like, "Okay, we need to talk," because that's a tangible thing that they could use to leverage to sell tickets. So, sorry, that was a long spiel, but social media, yes, factors into it, but there's other ways. Traffic from certain cities, mailing list numbers, all those things are super important.
I think this might be the last question, and it's just to circle back on John's question where he asked, is Facebook Live enough? What he was asking is it enough to only do Facebook Live for videos? So like I would think, as opposed to like also doing YouTube videos and also doing other videos.
I mean, it can be
posted by fans often.
Yeah, it can be. And look, I'm the last guy to tell you that you need to do anything. To me, it's maybe 5-7 years ago, I would have been like, you need to do all the things. But as an artist, you have a million things to take care of. You know, writing, rehearsing, performing, you know, all that stuff. Plus managing a website and social media. So some artists thrive on certain social media platforms. They thrive on Instagram. They get a ton of engagement on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook and Facebook Live. In terms of video, specifically, if that's working for you, awesome. The only caveat to that is YouTube is such an enormous platform in terms of where people are looking for music and looking to listen to music. So going back to, if it's just uploading music with lyric videos and the lyrics in the description as well, have it there, and then do your engagement with your fans through Facebook Live. Then if that's working for you, that's awesome.
And I think that's the end of the questions.
Awesome. Again, if you want to copy the slides or if you have any follow-up questions, I'll type my email one more time so it's at the top here. becool@bandzoogle.com. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And thank you all so much for attending, for being here today. Great questions. Allison, thank you so much for your help once again. Enjoy the rest of your day. And for those of you that email me, I'll be in touch the next day or two. So see you next time.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.